by that statement?
Let me speak to Burkina Faso's sovereignty. They maintain their sovereignty. They make their decisions how they use their resources. They make their decisions who their resources go to for military support. That's their sovereign right. But my cautionary tale was just from a military perspective. That was a Senate Armed Services Committee asking me a direct question. Burkina Faso, a lot of great things going on to progress them forward, okay? But then when you look at the military part of it, knowing that that's the epicenter of global terrorism, it was my time to illuminate that this is probably their weakest point, and there needs to be sufficient resources going towards for the whole fight of terrorism in that.
Did the United States just accuse an African leader of stealing his own country's gold? Yes. And the man behind that explosive statement has just spoken, right here in Nairobi. In April, during a U.S. Senate hearing, the head of U.S. Africa Command, General Michael Langley, made a bold and controversial claim. He accused Burkina Faso's Captain Ibrahim Traoré of looting national gold reserves to maintain what he described as a junta regime. Those words sparked immediate outrage. From the streets of Ouagadougou to the digital front lines of Pan-African youth, protests erupted. To many, this wasn't just a foreign opinion. It was a declaration of war on African sovereignty. Captain Traoré, a man celebrated by millions as a symbol of resistance and independence, has challenged the old order. He has cut ties with former colonial powers, reclaimed national resources, and aligned with neighbors like Mali and Niger to form a new Sahel alliance. But the West is watching closely, and Washington is speaking louder than ever. Now, in an exclusive interview aired on Citizen TV Kenya, General Langley refuses to backtrack. No retraction, no apologies. Just a firm defense of his earlier remarks. This is more than a conversation. It's a defining moment in Africa's evolving relationship with the West. Tonight, we bring you the full, unedited interview with the AFRICOM commander. The stakes are high, the questions are direct, and the world is watching. Stay tuned.
You are on African soil, not for the first time, but this would be a good moment to ask about one of the countries that has taken its own autonomy, and that's Burkina Faso. Your remarks recently at the Senate seem to suggest that he's diverting, General Traoré, is diverting its 4 billion gold reserves to sustain his military rule rather than for public welfare. These remarks sparked widespread condemnation across the continent. What did you mean by that statement?
Let me speak to Burkina Faso's sovereignty. They maintain their sovereignty. They make their decisions how they use their resources. They make their decisions who their resources go to for military support. That's their sovereign right. But my cautionary tale was just from a military perspective. That was a Senate Armed Services Committee asking me a direct question. Burkina Faso, a lot of great things going on to progress them forward, okay? But then when you look at the military part of it, that's the epicenter of global terrorism. It was my time to illuminate that this is probably their weakest point, and there needs to be sufficient resources going towards for the whole fight of terrorism in that country, period. They make their decisions, though. That's their sovereignty, their sovereign right to make their decisions, what is appropriate, what's not. But I wanted to illuminate that it's going in the wrong direction now. ISIS is getting stronger. JNIM is getting stronger. Al-Qaeda in the lands of the Maghreb is getting stronger in that country.
And do you think it's getting stronger after General Traoré took over?
It has. Just look at the numbers of attacks. It really has, since 2022. I've been tracking this since I took command. So, no ill will towards him, but the decisions is their own. They're looking for other ways to be able to, they're still on warfighting footing, but it's just going to take more resources.
So you stand by that statement? Because there's been pressure on you to walk those statements back.
That's my statement. That's my assessment. That is getting worse. More needs to be done for not just local, but whole of country, because of these violent extremist organizations are seeking revenue, they're seeking resources, they're seeking recruiting from the Burkinabe people, and they're seeking refuge within their country. That threatens their sovereignty.
And that threatens America's interest?
Say again?
Does that then threaten America's interests?
Yes, thank you for asking that. Because especially ISIS, and of course in East Africa is inextricably linked all the way to ISIS West Africa, ISIS Sahel, and there's going to be probably a move afoot for them to move and seek refuge within the line. So we have shared objectives, and we offer to work together with the Burkina government and border countries. Mali, Niger, coastal West Africa countries, collective, because here's what these organizations do. Here's what these terrorist organizations do. They seek refuge in the seams or the borders of these countries and lets them thrive and grow and lets them recruit, gain resources to carry on their illicit and nefarious activities against the populations of those people.
And what would America, perhaps AFRICOM, be prepared to do? Would you be considering an ouster like we saw with Muammar Gaddafi in Libya? Because there's still many Africans who are yet to recover from that. If this is a bigger threat, as you say, in Burkina Faso, what is AFRICOM prepared to do about it?
We do indications and warnings. There's a number of activities that we do, and we'll just go ahead and mention building institutional capacity. There's not going to be U.S. boots on the ground. Very, very small for exchange of ideas and training, exercises. Over time, that builds institutional capacity and capability in these armies. There, AFRICOM, we are working towards a burden sharing and a burden shift for their independent operations. That's our goal. We have the shared objectives because these same terrorist groups can threaten our homeland. So we're in concert. I was just an African Lion over in Morocco. A number of countries working together to be able to address.
Is Burkina Faso invited here today for this conference?
Yes. Yes. They were invited to African Lion in Morocco. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Like I said, we're moving forward.
Okay.
We're moving forward because we have that shared goal of defeating terrorism.
All right. Speaking of that, because the reaction out of the statements that you made about Burkina Faso were several African leaders feeling you are speaking on sovereignty issues that America shouldn't be. And as a result, there are those who see the role of AFRICOM as less of a partner in, the war against, shared threats, as you mentioned, and more of a protector of Western or American economic interests. that allows access to Africa's vast mineral resources, and as more of a paternalistic relationship than one of respect amongst peers. What would you respond to that?
I respond that there's others on the globe that do that. There's others on the globe that do that. Now, I'm going to even bring it up. We should even already know, okay? But I'm going to even bring that up.
Okay.
We respect the sovereignty. We respect their decisions. We respect their decisions of who they choose as a security partner. And then we measure the common denominator that's keeping these countries across the Sahel from progressing forward. You know, in 2050, you know, the largest workforce on the globe is going to come out of the continent of Africa. The youth need hope. They need peace and stability so they can hit their potentials. That's a long-range goal of AFRICOM as we look to help these countries set those conditions for stability and security so prosperity can be presented to all the populations and the youth. Pan-Africanism is real and it's strong, and there's an opportunity to come up on the global stage, and this continent can do it. That's what we really envision.
So you're not concerned about China and Russia expanding their military and economic influence across the continent?
We are concerned about it, yes.
What about it concerns you?
Well, you know, their influence. Their influence may not be looked upon as being a positive influence.
For who? For America or for Africa?
Well, for Africans, okay? And then, so Americans have that in mind, that for the African people and across all countries, be able to hit their maximum potential and independence and sovereignty and also freedoms by rules-based international order, being able to get on the global stage and take a leadership role and provide for the people in peace and stability. Some of those aims are not the same as the approach of those other countries on the global stage. So that's my perspective.
Do you have a counter strategy?
Do we have a counter strategy as far as to
China, Russia, their presence, because you say it doesn't align with the shared values?
Well, what we watch is the continent of Africa does not need to be militarized, let's put it that way. Does not need to be militarized. So we watch, as far as security agreements and what does it mean? Is it really for the stability to fight the threats of a African country, or is it for them and their ability to establish a global hegemon of basis? That's what concerns us.
We'll have to leave it there for now. Thank you very much,
right.
General Michael Langley. Thank you very much for speaking with us on Citizen Television. We appreciate your time.
What you have just witnessed is not just an interview. It is a reflection of the deep, growing rift between a continent rising and a world still struggling to accept that rise. General Michael Langley, the commander of USAFRICOM, stood his ground in Nairobi. He did not walk back his remarks. He did not soften his tone. Instead, he reaffirmed what many across Africa viewed as an insult, an allegation that Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the young and bold leader of Burkina Faso, is stealing the gold of his own people to finance what Langley calls a junta regime. But this story goes far beyond gold. It touches the very nerve of Africa's fight for sovereignty, dignity, and control of its own destiny. Captain Traoré, along with fellow leaders in Mali and Niger, has become a symbol, not just of defiance, but of redefinition. A redefinition of leadership, a redefinition of alliances, a redefinition of what it means to govern in Africa, by Africans, for Africans. These men have taken bold steps, expelling foreign troops, rejecting unfair partnerships, and challenging the neocolonial systems that have drained the continent of its wealth for generations. To the West, these moves may appear dangerous, even destabilizing. To millions of Africans, they represent liberation. And that is the core of the conflict. Because this is not just about one general statement. It is about a new generation of African leadership refusing to bow. It is about the battle between control and freedom, between narrative and truth. Across the continent, the streets have spoken. Protests, demonstrations, mass mobilization. The people are no longer waiting for permission to rise. They are rising regardless, and the world is being forced to listen. For the United States, this is a crossroads. Will Washington continue with a foreign policy built on suspicion, sanctions, and subtle interference? Or will it recognize and respect the shift happening on the ground? A shift led not by elites in conference rooms, but by the people in cities, villages, and deserts across Africa. The stakes are high, because what we're seeing is not just a change in leadership. It is a change in consciousness. Africa is done being lectured. Africa is done being looted. Africa is done being used as a pawn in great power games. This is Africa's moment to define itself, not by its past, but by its vision for the future. A future where resources serve the people, where alliances are chosen, not imposed, and where dignity is non-negotiable. Thank you for watching. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Join us as we continue to explore the untold stories, the rising movements, and the critical voices shaping the new Africa. Until next time, stay informed, stay conscious, and above all, stay sovereign.